Steins Gate is ranked the third most popular anime of all time. It's a story about mad scientists, time travel, and, bananas. So if you want to know the tale that is Steins Gate, stick around, because this is Steins Gate Explained. Da-da-da! Behold, the truth of time travel, the fabric of reality itself, the chaos of world lines.
Oh, please stop. Explain it normally.
Oh, fine. Time travel in Steins Gate works like this. We accidentally build a time machine using a microwave and a banana. We use this to send text messages back to the past. But every time we do, things change. A shift in the world line, a new reality, cause and effect rewritten.
Okay, stop. Didn't I just say to explain it normally? Just start from the beginning. Sam, can you do it?
Me? Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so the story of Steins Gate begins when Okabe, our main protagonist, attends a conference on time travel. At this conference, he finds Kirisu, a scientist, dead in a pool of blood. In shock, Okabe texts his friend Daru about it. But suddenly the world around him shifts and people disappear. And then moments later, we find out that Kirisu is still alive. It's as if nothing happened. Okabe doesn't know this yet, but this was his first time travel experience via a Dmail. A Dmail is essentially a text message sent back in time. Now, why is this important? This moment introduces the core mystery of the anime, which is time travel and world line shifts. It also foreshadows how Kirisu's fate is intertwined with Okabe's. But more on that later. Lastly, this is where we find out that Okabe has a unique ability. And that ability is to retain memories after shifting world lines. Okay, now you're probably asking, Sam, what the fuck is a world line? And my response to that would be, alright, geez, I was just about to tell you, calm down. Fuck. A world line refers to a specific timeline or reality within the larger attractor field. Each world line represents a different version of reality, where events unfold in a unique way based on past decisions and alterations to history. World lines are essentially grouped together into attractor fields, meaning that when a minor change occurs, it tends to repeat itself over and over again in that field. An example would be Kirisu being found in that pool of blood. Are we on the same page here? Because honestly, this shit was confusing for me also. Don't worry, I'll explain more as I go through the story. So we found Kirisu in a pool of blood. But how did Kirisu come back to life after Okabe sent a message? So as we come to find out in the first few episodes, Okabe and his lab members accidentally discover that their microwave can send text messages to the past. They call these Dmails. Each Dmail alters history slightly, shifting Okabe and his friends to different timelines. But we come to learn that these world lines aren't the original that Okabe and his friends come from. And honestly, at this point in the anime, Okabe himself isn't fully aware of the consequences that are soon to be present. Now, to discuss these consequences, we have to meet the members of the future Gadget laboratory. This is Okabe's self-proclaimed science team. We have Mayuri, Okabe's childhood friend, Daru, the hacker, and Okabe, the mad scientist. Now back to the present. After some stuffing around with some Dmails, Okabe comes to the realization that he is the only one who's able to remember the altered past. We are then introduced to two new characters, Mr. Braun, Okabe's landlord, and a new girl called Amane Suzuha. She's a worker at Mr. Braun's shop. Okabe then starts talking to someone named John Titter, a person who claims to be a time traveler from the year 2036. And this John Titter also claims to have changed the past in order to prevent World War III. Now after this, Okabe meets a woman named Mocha who is searching for an IBM 5100. What is an IBM 5100, you ask? Well, it's an old computer, you know, like that Windows 98 bullshit. Now this is just episode 1 and 2, and there's 24 episodes total. But the character and story setup here are important, so I had to yap. Alright, let's kick it up. After sending a text back in time, it is revealed that an evil organization called CERN is trying to make a time machine as well. Okabe asks Daru to hack into CERN to gather any and all information about their time travel program. Daru, being the mad hacker he is, succeeds, but Okabe needs more information. Okabe proceeds to get that information by obtaining an IBM 5100, which can decipher the code which Sern has been using to encrypt their information. So basically, Windows 98 old computer can decipher Sern, the evil organization's code. But this is where we find out something truly evil. Daru uses the IBM computer to learn that Sern has been conducting human experiments to perfect time travel. Mocha shows up wanting to borrow the computer for whatever reason. Kinda sus, but maybe she just wants to send nudges on MSN Messenger. But Okabe denies her ass, like my parents denying my RuneScape membership. After this, Daru slips up to Mayuri, Kirisu, and Mocha, and they all learn of the time machine that they created. Then Okabe's like, fine, shaking my head. You can be the 5th member, Mocha. Okabe then does what any gambling teen degenerate would do. He uses the banana phone computer to send winning lotto numbers to himself a week ago. By doing so, Okabe changes world lines where the Dmail leads to Luka buying the lottery ticket. Who is Luka, you ask? Luka is a male or female, I'm not too sure. Kind of like Haku from Naruto. Let's just say a friend for now. But Okabe is a troll here. He accidentally enters the wrong number, and after this, Okabe realizes that no one will remember the alternate past. He then decides to call this ability that he has Reading Steiner, which honestly for me is pretty lame. I would have called it Big Brain Bahamut Booty. The experiments continue, and Mocha sends a Dmail to the past, transporting Okabe to another world line once again. This shit gets really confusing. They're just hopping all over the place. Now, in this new wacko reality, everyone except Okabe does not remember Mocha. Luka, the ladyboy I mentioned earlier, arrives at the lab and reveals that he was eavesdropping on them about the time machine. Then Okabe's like, shaking my head again. All right, Luka, you're member number 006. So just to recap here, in the group we now have Okabe, Luka, Mocha, Daru, Mayuri, and Kirisu. Surely that's enough members now, right? Of course not. Okabe goes to a new timeline where Luka is a girl. Woohoo! Not only that, the IBM Windows 98 is now missing. Faris, a friend of Okabe's and Mayuri's, finds out about the phone wave. She requests to send a Dmail without disclosing the actual contents of the message. Sounds sus, but hey, what's the worst that could happen, right? Okabe agrees to this and introduces Faris as lab number 007. The Dmail is sent and Okabe changes world lines again to a world where Moe culture has ceased. God damn it! What have you done? Suzuha tells Okabe that she's looking for her father, and he decides to be a Chad and help her look for him. He also decides that Suzuha is now lab member number 008. Around this time, Okabe gets a threatening text reading the following. I know what you've been watching. Oh, sorry, that's the text that I got recently. It read, I'm watching you. Which for me is a little bit less scary, to be honest. Okabe then receives another threatening text with a bloody doll head and a message reading, you know too much. And still we're unsure who this is. Like, is it a goth girl flirting? We're not sure. Anyway, Daru discovers that Sern has been connected to the lab's computer this entire time. That means that Sern knows everything about them and has been spying on them this whole time. Well, that's not good. Kirisu finishes the time leap machine that she's been working on. And this thing's a little bit confusing, but essentially, it creates a miniature black hole to compress the memories of a person down into a size in which the phone wave can manage, therefore allowing a person's present memories to overwrite their past selves' memories. However, it can only handle sending someone's memories back 48 hours. That's the one stipulation. Okabe decides, all right, stuff this, we need to go public with our findings. So they get on X, also formerly known as Twitter, and they're like, yo, we figured out time travel and shit, bro. Okay, no, they didn't. But they did have a banging party that night. Time travel party. Now at this party, Suzuha turns up and accuses Kirisu of being a Cern mole. Molly. Daru spills the beans to Suzuha that they have been connected to Cern this whole time, and Suzuha suddenly runs out of the lab freaking out. And this is where an extremely dark turn happens. Mocha turns up with a mob of hitmen who work for Cern. They hold everyone hostage and they shoot and kill Mayuri. Ah, you motherfuckers! I'll kill you! I'll fucking kill you! Is basically what I was like. Okabe uses Big Brain no Jutsu and uses the time leap machine to cancel the party. He then searches for Mayuri in order to protect her. But then, over and over again, Mayuri dies by the hands of Cern. But Okabe tries again, and he manages to get her out of Cern's sight. However, Mayuri is accidentally pushed into an oncoming train. And at this point, we seem to realize that the universe just wants Mayuri dead, and there's nothing he can do to change it. Okabe time leaps over and over again trying to save Mayuri, but fails every single time. And this is the part in the series that just tears your heartstrings. You feel the same pain Okabe does, and you just go through this endless despair with him. But Okabe time leaps again to a time just before the time leap machine was completed by Kirisu. Suzuha then approaches the two and leads them to the crashed satellite, the one I forgot to show you in episode 1. It's just been hanging out of the building this whole time. Here she throws us the biggest plot twist ever. And she states that John Titor, the time traveler from 2036, is actually her. And that satellite is not a satellite. It's a time machine. Her time machine. Now after this we find out that in order to save Mayuri, Okabe must travel from the Alpha Worldline attractor field, where Mayuri dies, to the Beta Worldline, which is Okabe's original worldline where Mayuri lives. Now not only that, it's explained that in 2036, the world is being controlled by the evil hand of Sern. Suzuha informs Okabe and Kirisu that she was meant to travel straight to 1975. Once she got there, she was meant to obtain a Windows 98 computer. However, she made a selfish detour to try find her father. After this, Daru's like, bet, time to fix Suzuha's time machine, and the rest of the crew begin a search for Suzuha's dad. And the only clue that they have is her father's pin. It's like trying to find a pin in the haystack. Sorry. Suzuha gives Okabe her divergence meter, which is essentially a device that keeps track of what world line they're on. Daru fixes the time machine and finds out it can only travel back into the past. And this is where Mayuri, the genius, comes to the conclusion that Daru is in fact, drumroll please, Suzuha's father. People cry, and people say goodbye. And off Suzuha goes to 1975. Happily ever after. She's found her father, we've sent her back home, life is good. But in the most brutal plot twist ever, we find out that something was still broken in her time machine. Not only this, she'd lost all her memories from that incident, to which she later remembered those memories and decided to commit suicide. Pretty grim, right? Okabe then sends a Dmail which alters the past to a world line where Suzuha travels to 1975 instead of staying to look for her papa. Mr. Braun, the bringer of bad news, reveals to Okabe that she then died again. That was a tongue twister. Mr. Braun, the bringer of bad news. But this time she passed away from an illness. And at this point we're like, God damn! Can Okabe save anyone that he likes? Or do they just die? Anyway, after this, Kirisu comes up with a hypothesis explaining that undoing all the Dmails they've ever sent may help them get back the lost 98 Windows computer. Once received, Daru, the big brain, can hack into Sern and delete all and any information about the team's progress. But firstly, Okabe must undo Faris's first Dmail. You know, the one where she removed Moe culture? And Faris remembers that the message actually stopped her father from passing away. He continues this process, removing all these Dmails, and he starts to realize that every day he removes a Dmail, Mayuri's death day also gets pushed back. Mocha is then found to have committed suicide, and Okabe travels back in time to stop this, but also manages to convince her to reveal the original location of the Windows 98 computer. They do this by tracing back through her Dmails. This is where shit gets even more wild. Okay, I need coffee for this. Alright, let's go. Okabe and Kirisu try to send a text message reverting the effect of Mocha's Dmail, but fail once again. Okabe concludes that the past Mocha will only believe the Dmail is legitimate if they send it to her boss. You know how the Japanese are with respecting their bosses. Anyway, the present Mocha informs Okabe that the IBM 5100, also known as the Windows 98, is being stored in a locker wall. Okabe follows closely as the Windows 98 computer gets transported from hand to hand until it is flown off to Paris, where one of the hands of the transportation turns out to be, dun dun dun, Mr. Braun. Mr. Braun, how could you? Okabe, Kirisu, and Mocha grill Mr. Braun. Now it turns out that Mr. Braun is actually a CERN agent who was forced to do the work after they threatened his daughter's life. which honestly is fair enough. Though Mr. Braun follows Sern's protocol. He shoots Mocha, and then he proceeds to shoot himself. Okabe then grabs Mr. Braun's phone and sends the necessary Dmail to finally change world lines. Now Sern has no idea about their group and their time travel progress. This has been a wild ride. But then Okabe comes to a horrible realization. By reverting the last message and saving Mayuri, Kirisu will now die over and over again, just like in the original world line. Again, Okabe is caught in this horrible situation. I mean, pick your poison. Kill the girl that you've come to love, or kill your best friend. Which will you choose? Okabe refuses and tries to help Mayuri, but fails again and again, and he time leaps again and again. Okabe, on the brink of a mental breakdown, confesses to Kirisu that she dies in the original world line. Kirisu reveals to Okabe that she remembers the spot where she was murdered from the original world line. She also manages to convince him that he must revert the last email in order to save Mayuri. This is where they confess their love for each other, and they share a final kiss as a goodbye. Side note from myself, the romance in this anime, top tier, godly. Okabe clicks the button and changes world lines. He manages to get past the 1% barrier and lands back to the original world line where Kirisu is destined to die and Mayuri lives. But what is the 1% barrier? Okay, let me give you a quick TLDR on how time traveling works in Steins Gate. Dmails are messages that are sent to the past, and they can cause the active world line to change by contradicting historical events. Attractor fields are essentially locked fate unless you shift world lines completely. And so to escape Mayuri's death, Okabe had to undo all Dmails, and to escape Kirisu's death, Okabe had to trick the world line into thinking she died while actually saving her. This was the 1% barrier he tricked in order to come back to the Steins Gate world line. This timeline being the only timeline where his friend and lover are still alive. Okay, now there's two endings for Steins Gate here, and I'm gonna give you the happy one, because I care about you. Suzuha arrives in the time machine from 2036, exclaiming to Okabe that she needs his help in order to prevent World War III. He agrees, and off they go. Okabe goes to the closet where Kirisu was found dead, and he sees Kirisu's father meet up with her. Kirisu's father is jealous of his daughter's success, and he takes her time travel thesis, exclaiming, "I will punish you, and I will publish it under my own name." He gets rowdy, and Okabe attempts to save Kirisu again. However, she accidentally gets stabbed in the process. Whoops. Suzuha and Okabe travel back to the present. Suzuha reminds Okabe of the video he received on the day that Kirisu died. We then find out that he had to fail once to save Kirisu to then see the video. The video wasn't viewable unless he failed to save her. Now the video message is a message from Okabe's future self, explaining that he must trick his past self into seeing and believing Kirisu is dead without actually killing her. Trippy, right? Well, it has to be to trick the world line. Okabe plans to use a gadget which holds fake blood in its tip, therefore faking Kirisu's death. Okabe and Suzuha go back in time for one last try. Okabe finds the fake blood dried up and it's unusable now. He uses his quick thinking and provokes Kirisu's father to stab him instead. He then uses his own blood for his gadget, which to be honest is a pretty fucking savage play by Okabe. Kirisu's dad runs away with her thesis, however due to the new events taking place, it is later destroyed. Okabe successfully fools his past self into thinking Kirisu is dead, and so he and Suzuha travel back to the present. Okabe hands out lab badges to all the lab members he made throughout the series, storing one for Suzuha when she is born in 7 years' time. Now for me, this was a super wholesome touch, and I think personally she had one of my favourite character designs. Anyway, coming to the end of the series, we see that Okabe walks past Kirisu, and she seems to remember all kinds of memories from other world lines. And this is where their relationship starts all over again. And that's the ending of Steins Gate. What a ride, what a show. Now at first this show can feel boring, confusing, but if you stick with it, you really start to understand why it's the third ranked anime of all time. Speaking of boring, but if you stick with it, it's great. My YouTube channel, check out my latest review of Okabe ga Kill right here, where I explain it in 11 minutes. Click on my face now. And while you're there, don't forget to slap the shit out of the like and subscribe button, and my anus. And I'll see you over on the other video. Peace out.